Please be aware, if you're attending this meeting, our meetings are recorded for future viewing, and we are privileged to gather on the traditional territory of the Kwakwaka'wakw. So I'll call the meeting to order and ask that we accept the agenda as presented, please. So moved. Seconded. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Okay, this public hearing is being held in accordance with the Local Government Act, Section 465 and 494, to allow the public to make comment to the Town of Port McNeill Council regarding the consideration of the temporary use permit at 2342 Beach Drive. We will have staff give a presentation to summarize the process and provide an outline of the temporary use permit. Once the presentation is complete, all persons will have the opportunity to be heard respecting matters respecting the proposed temporary use permit. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and when I call for speakers, when it is your turn, please state your name, street name, and then give your view on the proposed permit. All people wishing to speak will be heard the first time, and then 2 more opportunities will be provided. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes in length. Please keep in mind that the information submitted during this public hearing will form part of the public record. Following your presentation, members of council may ask you questions about the content of your submission, but they are primarily here to listen and will not debate the issue with you. After the public hearing is over, council may, without further notice, make a decision about the bylaw. So I'll call upon Pete Nelson Smith to do the presentation, and then he will give us also the written submissions after that.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Thank you all for coming this evening, and for anybody online, I should be looking there, not at the screen. Under the Local Government Act, temporary use permits are only available to a local government if addressed in an official community plan or zoning bylaw. Temporary use permits were considered as part of the recently adopted Port McNeill official community plan under section 13.3. So having said that, temporary use permits, or TUPs, are a new tool in the town's toolbox that allows us to test a use in an area not zoned to allow for it, but may make sense under the right circumstances. This allows the local government to assess a use without having to permanently rezone the property, and if the use does make sense, it gives a basis to consider a rezone. If the use is not a fit for the property reverts to the previous or original zoning. So essentially, a temporary use permit is a test for the local government. Is this going to work in this area for what we see is a benefit of the community? And that way we don't have to, for lack of a better word, sign in blood that this is now rezoned to this. Temporary use permits can only be issued to a maximum of 3 years, and they can be shorter under local government's wishes. TUP can only be renewed once for a maximum of 3 years, and again, with no minimum time requirement. The local government can also apply conditions to the permit, regulating the property to a more specific use. As part of the TUP application and consideration process, local government is required to give notice of the consideration and provide people potentially affected by the permit an opportunity to be heard by council. Notifications have been released, and tonight is the public hearing for council to hear any concerns. The temporary use permit that we are discussing tonight is for a fishing lodge, which will accommodate traveling public in a home, preparing 3 meals per day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and taking guests from the lodge to a boat for the fishing excursion. And I think I've got that correct.
Correct.
Is there a problem?
Yes, the camera just froze. I'm going to adjust it if you would like.
Can those online still hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can still hear, okay. So we're having technical difficulties, but
You're gone now.
Okay, there we go. Keep going.
Written submissions?
Call on our CIO, Pete Nelson Smith, to provide the written submissions, please.
So to the closing today, we have received 3 written submissions. I will read them and make them part of the public hearing process. From Nancy Orr, application for a temporary light industrial commercial permit on a residential lot. Why would it even be considered to allow commercial zoning a fishing lodge on residential property? Lodge is another name used for motels and hotels. This would be a hotel. It should be done as a B&B and remain residential zoning. Of course, the neighbors wouldn't mind, as rezoning 2342 Beach Drive to commercial would open the door for them to be rezoned. Why should you say yes to one and not the rest of town? Why do we even bother to have zoning if it can be quickly changed by calling it temporary 3-year? Why did the town waste time and money on a new community plan if they don't plan on using it? Thank you. From Brenda and Malcolm Fleeton. As the closest next door neighbors to the Murgatroyds, we just wanted to let the town council and proceedings know that we have no objection to the fishing lodge plans for this property for the summer. We feel that anything that brings more tourists into town is positive for the community. And the last one from Ken and Deb Menzies regarding allowing a residents of Beach Drive to use a residential property for commercial enterprise. We have considered the proposal and for many reasons are opposed to the fishing lodge proposal on Beach Drive. And that concludes the written submissions.
Thank you. So I will call for the first time for speakers. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Either in the room or online? We'll start with in the room first.
I guess I'll speak. I'll just state my name.
Please, yeah.
John Murgatroyd, 2342 Beach Drive. And I guess I'd just say in response to Nancy or any other hotel owner that we strongly feel that we're not taking away any hotel business from town. We actually think we're increasing hotel business. The guests that we'd be bringing here are strictly coming here to fish, and they're most likely staying a night on either end of their trip, depending on their flight out or their travel arrangements. And we've recommended the Black Bear as well as the Dalewood for those stays after they've checked out our place. As far as parking or anything like that goes, I heard addressed at the last meeting, we've got a maximum of 4 guests. We've got 2 people that are always on site staying at the house, my daughter and her boyfriend. They will be shuttling the guests in a van. So there'll be no more than 2, maximum 3 vehicles parked at the house at any one time. And we currently have ample parking for that off the street on the property. And as far as noise, we'll have a quiet time like everybody else in town at 10 o'clock. We have no immediate neighbor on the right-hand side. We've discussed with Granger, and he has no issues with it. And same as Malcolm on the other side. And other than that, there's nothing but vacant lots, and I don't think there'd be any chance of any noise above us. That's about it. And we think we're bringing some business to town. We're supporting as much locally as we can. We're buying all our fishing gear as much as we can from places like Timberland, ShopRite, fuel from town, groceries, and everything that we can source locally. That's part of our business model. And we just ask that we're happy with the temporary permit. We're willing to try to prove concept. We're not looking for a forever place. We're actually looking to prove out, create the business, and then look for a more permanent site, probably commercially zoned or otherwise, that we can, well, they can sort of take this on as a full-time thing.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll see if there is anyone online wishing to speak. Can you use the raised hand function, please? Or just speak?
They all have the ability to speak.
They don't have the ability to speak. If you'd
Yeah.
like me to enable that, I can.
Yes,
Yes.
we'll have to in order to do it public, yeah. And then you can put the other, yeah, afterwards, great, okay. For those online, we're just, yeah, giving everybody that. So everybody now has the ability to speak. Did any, we're still on the first call to speakers. Does anyone online wish to say something? Okay, I'll go for the second call for speakers. I will call a second time for speakers. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? So if you can mention your name, please, and your
Anita
address.
Burgessford, 2342 Beach Drive. I think John may have forgot this. We are currently booked for 34 days. That's it. 34 days out of 365. That's all. At this moment, we have 34 days that our home will be. I'm not sure.
No, thank you. Yeah. Is there anyone online that wishes to speak? And we're confirmed that everybody has the ability, Connor? Okay. So I will call a third and final time. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Okay. This public hearing is now declared closed. I'll remind council we're not permitted to receive any more public input regarding the proposed bylaw now that the public process has been closed. And can I have a motion, please, to adjourn this public hearing?
So move.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Great. I've already made everybody, but if you're attending the meeting, it's recorded. I'll call the meeting, the regular scheduled meeting to order. Item 2A. Before we adopt, just to make mention under in camera, we are going under section 91, B bracket 1. Okay. So if I can have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Item 4A, we've got the April 26, 2022 regular council meeting minutes for adoption. Proceed. Move to adopt, yeah. Seconder. Okay, all those in favor? Or are there any corrections? Sorry. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 4B, May 3rd, 2022 special council meeting minutes. Move to adopt. Seconded by? Second. Okay. Any corrections? Seeing none then, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay. We'll go on to item 5A. We have staff report for the grant and aid current budget funds to follow. So that was handed to us this evening, letting us know where we have given, what the total is, and our proposed operating budget for the local grant and aid is $13,000. Did everybody get that online? Did they receive that online? Yep. Got a thumbs up, great. Okay. We'll move then to item 5A. We've got the Port McNeill Minor Hockey Club grant and aid application.
I move that we approve that application.
Okay, seconder for that?
Sure, second.
Okay. For discussion.
May I jump in?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I just wondered, I guess, from staff or otherwise, it says it's doesn't have proper financials. So is that an obstacle? We have a sort of financials for the year, but not for the club. And is there anything in our policy that would prevent us granting it without that? Good question.
Just one moment. Go ahead. Did you want to?
Yeah.
ask? What happened? Did you want to ask a question, Councillor Downey, before? Okay, great. Okay, great. Staff's just checking into that for you, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, I think it's, they are saying available upon request, so it's just a matter of filing it. It's just always been a gray area on these forms where do you have to be a society or not, right? I guess that's just for our information.
Maybe while staff is discerning that, determining that, I did call the proponent or the requester of this grant and aid. And I learned that in the season that just ended, they, my question was twofold. One, where are you at financially? Are you sitting on $1,000 or 40,000 or 20,000? What is your current situation? Their current cash position is they're sitting on about $24,000. Prior year they were at 34. So they have, and you see by the, I'll distribute that to you. So I did get a set of statements from them. And they lost about $10,000 last year, and they're just their operating costs. Their expenditures were 42,000. Their revenue is 34,000.
It's the same one we have.
Okay, so there's some notes in there as well. The other question I asked was because they had made their claim based on their revenue that they had lost. So my question was, what was your net revenue that you've lost, right? Revenue minus expenses. So they lost the equivalent of about $8,000 per tournament that they did not hold. So that was 3 this year and 7 last year, 4 last year, for a total of 7. 7 times 8 is $56,000 of revenue that they didn't have. But I guess my question is that the organization is not, they do have cash. I'm not opposed to giving them cash. I guess the question would be is what is it for? If it's just building up a reserve, for what purpose? And, you know, would we want to give this now or would we give it later? Would we give a portion now and perhaps later when there is a more defined case as to why we should be anteing up in 40 grand instead of 20?
Okay, staff has the answer to Councillor Cole's question.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. On page 15 of 123, we actually have the application requirements. And the only thing that I can see is in accepting a grant, so this would be after the grant is received, the organization agrees to provide the town with an accounting of how funds were used. The town should be acknowledged as a sponsor of the organization's programs, activities, or events in all published material and advertising. And then any reports forthcoming from staff or the organization to council are to consist of a free-form status update letter and a 1-page financial report, including detailed breakdown of expenditures.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Cole?
Yes, thank you.
Any other comments? We have a motion on the table for the full amount.
We had a grant application previously that came in for the Legion, and that was when Harinder was here. and he ran it through somebody at the government to see if it was an acceptable use of the grant money. Is that something that we need to do with this before we make a decision,
Or has it been done?
or has it been done?
Preemptively, yeah.
Could I jump in?
Our CFO was gonna answer that question, and then Councillor Cole, go ahead.
So in the COVID facts, they do talk about where the funds can be spent, and it's in those 4 allocations that we spoke about. I don't think it's really restricted how you spend within those allocations, so I think it's.
Councillor Cole, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to suggest one of those categories is revenue shortfall. So I know we're looking at the COVID grant in aid, which is supposed to be for vulnerable people, but I see no barriers to us using that fund for the community as well. If there's a consensus with that, or so that's another question with regards to this application is if we say yes, which fund is it coming out of?
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
I would like to change my motion to $20,000 instead of 40. If the seconder is
Comfortable with that?
open to that.
Yeah, I'm open to it. Something is ringing, something
So
is
I'd like
ringing
to-
the bell for me though, about getting an approval. Could the
If,
motion,
I believe that the money for lost revenue is ours to distribute. I don't believe we're in a position to make everybody who comes to us completely whole. And that's what this would do in their situation. It would make them completely whole in terms of their loss. And I think we all suffered somewhat from COVID if we're in business, and nobody's making us completely whole. So we're not going to be able to do that for every person who comes through our door. And so I think we need to acknowledge that. On the other hand, they definitely suffered, and the government definitely gave us some money to help with that, but we need to be careful we distribute it in a wise manner. And certainly it isn't for vulnerable people. This is money that's for revenue shortfalls. That's what it's for. And so that's going to come out of that pool of money, and there may be others who are going to come to us, and I think we've got to be careful that we don't try and make everybody whole, because we don't have that much money.
Thank you.
That's why I chose that, to reduce that number.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barron, you had a comment?
I was just wondering if I accept the 20,000, will he accept that it gets, we just run it by the contact person just to make sure that we're not doing something that we can't do? If we have that person to reach out to.
Subject to approval by,
The government, yeah.
Yeah, ensuring it meets, because I remember it did change at one point since it first came out, and maybe I'm remembering something from the first set of rules, but I would just like assurance that.
Councillor Down?
The one thing that this application doesn't have is what the funds are for.
Mhm.
It doesn't state it's going to be used to buy summer ice. It doesn't state that it's to run hockey camps. It doesn't actually specify what the purpose is, other than to, restore their finances. But the question really is for what purpose? So, Haley had thought she would be here this evening, and my intention was to ask her when she showed up, and unfortunately that opportunity isn't here, but.
Okay, Councillor Councillor Mitchell?
Just give me a quick comment there. The revenue shortfall is a legitimate cause, and they don't have to tell us what they're using it for. They've been using their money for all these years for operational purposes, and they lost the opportunity to get $40,000 net revenue over the last 2 years, and we're going to honor that because we were given money to do it. We don't have to know what they're going to use it for. They might not even know yet.
Any other comments? All right. Call the question. Or
Aye.
No, I said before I call the question, if
Oh.
I've got a counselor here that's ready to, or it looks like they're gonna say something.
I was gonna ask if we want to table this to the next meeting and find out, because in terms of revenue shortfall, that's the town's revenue shortfall,
Yeah.
not other agencies out in the community. So it's not quite exactly the same, although I hear what you're saying. And it also would allow to ask the question what the funds are going to be used for, because as you know, the other funds that we've let are for specific purposes. So.
I don't believe that it's our right to ask what the funds are going to be used for.
No, she's not saying that. What she's saying is that the belief is that the revenue shortfall fund that we have is the town's revenue shortfall, not the public's revenue shortfall. And she's just asking if we got clarification prior to approving this, or would it be okay if it was under the stipulation that it was rammed through to make sure that we don't hand $20,000 that we actually weren't able to, because it wasn't our revenue shortfall, it was another agency's. That's what Councillor Downey's.
Also, she doesn't want to know what they're going to be using it for. I didn't catch that.
Just wanted to assure that we can cover somebody else's
Probably.
revenue.
Doesn't seem to be any timeline in here or anything really urgent, so.
We table this to our next meeting?
So call the question.
She's asking if we can table to the next meeting.
Well, that's a tabling is a motion. She needs to make a motion to table it.
And we've got to call a question, or I guess we did already. It's
Guess
still
it's
on
the chair's call.
Can you not, yeah, no, we don't have to call the question if somebody wants to table an item. We've done that before. You two, we just took your course. Can we have clarity on that, please?
Sorry, I thought we had a motion on the table still.
Yes, I know, but when we're tabling, like, in the past, it's interrupted the motion. It always has. So I'm just getting clarity from yeah.
My understanding is you can table the motion as well as the subject.
Okay.
So this motion could come back to a subsequent meeting. It would just be sort of held in.
I motion that we table the motion.
I would second.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the tabling then? Okay, it'll come on to the next agenda. Staff, you're understanding what we're, yes, nodding from staff. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next we have item 5B, Art in the Park event. Just asking for, requesting the use of the waterfront to use the green space surrounding the info center, as well as blocking off the one-way street. And that'll be for July 23rd from 10:30 to 6:30 p.m. 10:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m.
It's a Saturday, right?
I believe so.
That's a Saturday. Yeah.
I would motion that approval of that request.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Oh, sorry, all those in favor? Opposed?
Hold it.
Okay.
I put my hand up for discussion.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a bit of a real blow to those who've been waiting until the 15th of July to go fishing. And now we're going to close off their access to the boat ramp basically for a whole day on a Saturday. Is that really what we want to do? I mean, I have no objection to having an event there at all, but I have an objection to closing the road. The fishing season doesn't open until the 15th of July. So the very second Saturday of the fishing season, we're going to lock that road up so they can't use it all day on a Saturday. I'm not in favor of that. I don't think it's fair.
I think the understanding is from the Sportsman to Muggs, that little stretch, not the entire
Right.
road.
So you tell me how you're going to get a boat in there. It's going to be a challenge. All the traffic coming around by CAB trying to get into that boat ramp, turn around, launch. It's going to be a nightmare. I mean,
Right.
most people make the loop. That's how you get down there. So I'm not in favor of closing the road for events.
Okay.
I'm
Any
in
other
favor of the
comments?
event. Everything but close the road, I'm in favor of.
Any other comments?
We could defer to the Harbor Authority for that opinion. I do recall we've blocked the road off, for Orca Fest and a bunch of times before.
Mhm.
And I don't recall any specific complaints, but it is a good point. That was not, it's good to consider that.
Any other comments before I call the question? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Item 5C, we have the Port McNeil Lions grant and aid application for heat. Oh, wait, no, did I go ahead? No, I didn't. Yes. Okay. So they are seeking $10,000. And had mentioned it was to be included with their last application, but they didn't have the information in time. Council? I'm going to motion to support it.
Yeah, second.
Seconded. Discussion on that?
I guess my only concern is our last one was to pay their insurance and do some electrical upgrades, just sort of routine maintenance really in the building. And now we're basically gonna put a new furnace in it, and I'm looking at the financials and I'm thinking, these are a great bunch of guys, but is it viable? And are we just putting a bunch of money into a building that's going to be abandoned in a year or two when the club folds? I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to be pragmatic, and there's got to be some forward movement there, and there hasn't been for quite some time. And now we're down to paying the light bill almost. Where do we stop with the life support? I'm not sure. They're now up to 20 grand, right? The revenue for the quarter was a minus 4,000. So if that continues, that means that they're going to be $16,000 in the hole at the end of the year.
Any other comments?
I guess Council Mitchell does bring a good point. Like maybe a bit more of a knowing their future plans might help this decision. What is the 5-year plan? Is it just bingo as usual, or is there a recruitment drive going on? Or especially considering we've already significantly contributed. So I think at this point, yeah, it's a decent question to ask.
Okay. Other comments? Do we want to table this one as well, or just call the question?
I'd hate to vote against it, but I think I have to at this point. I'd like to see it tabled. It's for a lot to take in, all these requests.
Are you motioning?
Motion to table the motion. It's our new thing.
There's a seconder there.
And then.
There's a
the
seconder to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a seconder to that motion? There's not.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling? Are you in favor of the tabling, Ryan? I don't see your hand up. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. There, wrong hand. I am.
I will vote in favor of the tabling. I would like to hear what their plan is moving forward. So I don't want to vote against it, but I would like to know just a little bit more detail and as well. So
I don't mind if I may volunteer to just meet with the executive of the Lions Club, seeing as I'm the liaison for charities. and have a
Okay.
chat with them and see what their plans are and see if we can get them, maybe give us a 5-year projection and explain to them what our concerns were around this table.
Okay, that would be great.
I'll do that. I'll bring a report back to the next meeting.
So, Your Worship, can I just get clarification of the vote?
Well, 2 of us raised our hands and 2 did not, so that's unanimous then if they're not gonna raise it, nobody raised their hand for against.
I don't
so
think we actually,
I don't think you
you
have
didn't, you
to.
didn't say who was
Yeah.
opposed.
Oh, sorry. Opposed?
Doesn't matter,
Doesn't matter. There.
whatever.
I liked the days when we were much more casual, but anyway. Okay, item 5D, Loggers Golf Tournament. And this is a small grant and aid application.
I'd like to approve that we do it. I'd like to second that.
Okay. Do we,
2 annual boat pass launches and 2 family season pool passes.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed and it's carried.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, because there is a little sign here that says your sponsors are now providing a sign. I thought that we had made a sign in our first year.
Okay, not sure where,
We're actually
Whether
not
we-
supposed to be, yeah. sorry.
You asked.
No,
You look
Yeah,
at me.
you asked. Oh, I'm not loggers golf.
Oh, well, I know, okay. Well, we'll find a sign or get a sign
We'll
anyways,
get you
okay?
a sign, Lee.
All right, next, moving right along to item 5E, North Island Football. This is a grant application. This is actually a grant in aid, so it's a large donation. The newly formed football club and for equipment.
It's rather large.
It is a large grant.
Can I motion that we table this and have the Ryan Minahan, the requester, come and present to council? It is $30,000 is significant, and I know that there are kids that are actively playing, they're enjoying it, it's their first time. And I don't want to say no, and I don't want to reduce the amount, but I would like to hear more about it and what the goal is. Is this 30,000 and we're done in a season, or is this 30,000 and we're going to carry on with a program going forward in the future? And also, it, you know, have these items already been purchased? You know, has it already been paid for? Is it paid for by
Okay, so a
the,
motion to table,
so,
seconder on that? Okay, and that's with the caveat that we have Ryan Minahan.
come and present his
Come and
program
present.
to us.
Okay, can I just make a motion that we have Ryan Manhead present to council first? And if you're gonna table the report, that's a separate motion. You can't mix stuff up in a tabling motion. Just to table is to table. And then to invite him to come and present is another motion. So I'll move that we invite him to come and present.
Okay,
I think I have a motion on the table.
yeah,
I have a motion on the floor to table.
all in favor of tabling? Okay, now we'll move on to the other one. You've got that written down. Could you read that out, please? Connor?
Table.
No, that's it. And then the second half is another motion.
Motion is to request that Ryan Minahan come and present to council about his football program.
And that was first and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, we've got item 5F, Fort McNeil Youth Soccer Grant Application. And this is also a grant and aid application.
I move we
A
give
move for
him the money.
discussion.
Move for discussion, okay, move seconded by, moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Downey, and for discussion, go ahead.
Feels like everything's getting tabled, but I contacted the author of the letter because our business had sought to sponsor a set of jerseys just prior to the pandemic. We were working with our local club, local businessmen, Island or Timberlands Sports to arrange for these jerseys. So I gave Jackie a call and said, hey, look, this is something we had wanted to do. Are you looking for one set, two set? She said, you know, we have our jerseys are set for this year. We're just ordering some, trying to get ahead of it for next season. So I said, we're in for one. And so she was going to get back to me as to whether, you know, they needed, what the need was beyond that. And I didn't hear back from her prior to this meeting. So if we could table this until I hear back from her. The need has been met for the set of jersey. It's just a matter of what is the need going forward. You know, is it one set or is there multiple sets that need to be replaced?
I'll second that.
Is this for a particular age group or the entire?
They don't specify,
Mhm.
but they need, they do have some divisional jerseys, I think. I don't know my jargon here, sorry.
I struggled with this particular one because I thought, where do you, at
Draw
what
the line.
team, where do you draw the line? Because there's hockey, there's football, there's soccer, there's, yeah, it's not a lot of money, but there are a lot of teams.
If you would, we
But
could
that's okay, then.
motion just to receive and file the request as well. Withdraw my
I'll
motion
withdraw
then.
okay. You've withdrawn your motion?
I'll withdraw it and read if that's okay, and I'll just put it to receive and file. And I will report back to council if there's another need.
All right. Seconder? Sure. All those in favor? Opposed? Did you want to make a comment, Derek, or you're, okay. Okay. Next, we're moving on to item 7A. This is a report for information, but staff is looking for direction that council designates 6 p.m. Monday, June 13th, 2022 for the public hearing date. And it to be held at the community hall.
Yeah, can I get clarity maybe from staff? My understanding was that the letters were going out immediately after our OCP was finalized, which was March 22nd. So I was a bit surprised to see that no letters had gone out. So can I just clarify, there really has been no communication out to any property owners from March 22nd till today?
You're correct.
Councillor Cole?
Yes, it's kind of two different things. There were no letters to go out. It was my understanding to do with the OCP. What I want clarification, we've done first or second reading on the zoning bylaw?
The
When-
second reading,
Yeah.
January 25th.
On the zoning bylaw though?
Yes.
Right, okay. Yeah, if there's more discussion on that topic, that's fine, but I did want to talk about the content of the letter as well.
Go ahead. No, I think that.
Okay, this looks like an example that was given to us, page 61, 123. Using the town property as an example. So if I own this property, I would like to see sort of a list of the uses. Like this is really going to it's saying your zoning is changing from C1 to C2. Contact the town office if you have any questions. And it might just go in the waste paper basket, but if those uses were listed and somebody could actually see the changes, that would probably be less work on our staff and might just leave people a little more informed and less likely to jump to conclusions, say, on how the use of their property is changing. So yeah, that's what I was wondering if it would be like, it's probably reluctance to do this, but actually show the old zoning and then the new zoning and even a new definition of the old zoning, because we've changed quite a bit. So that was my input. I'm okay with the date. But,
So you would like to see, and we'll get a bit, I believe majority of councils nodding their head, the old zoning and the former uses, new zoning and the new uses.
a much more informative letter, and then also, I was gonna get to this, but like explain grandfathering so people don't flip out and all of a sudden they can't have their machine shop there anymore.
Yeah, I think that's.
And then I question, you know, like everything's going to Kevin, is that what we want, or does it get filtered through a local perspective, or he's just gonna get all this stuff and report back to us? So yeah, I'm just wondering about the process.
Okay, I'll refer to staff on the process, then
Thank you.
why Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Kevin is the one that has crafted, designed, done the public consultation and worked with council the most on the changes to the zoning and proposed zoning changes. He's, as a professional planner, he is the best person to explain any changes to the owners of the property.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
We
Go
have the letters going out on the 13th. No, we're gonna have the public hearing on the 13th. Is that right?
That's the
of
staff
June.
working direction, yes. Mhm.
And then when are we gonna actually pass that bylaw? When is that proposed?
So I think what it would be similar to what we did with the OCP, where the public hearing is on the Monday night, solely separate from the meeting. That gives us 24 hours to contemplate what we've heard. And then we will discuss at the following night at our regular scheduled council meeting and initiate any changes if we feel that there are some to be made based on that public consultation.
So the 13th would be the public hearing, so we would not be voting on that bylaw on the 14th.
Well, we would be discussing, and then, yeah, we might make changes and say, bring it back with the changes before we vote. There's nothing that says we have to give second reading the very next day, but we'll be discussing that bylaw and hopefully moving it along, however long it takes us to get there after the public consultation.
So we are at second reading now, correct?
Yes, correct.
So that would be third reading on the 14th.
No, we could give third reading if we felt that it was ready to give third reading, but we don't have to give third reading. What we will be doing is discussing what people gave input on the night before and making the necessary changes if there are any to make. Which may or may not mean a third reading, because we would have to we have to keep it at second reading to keep making the changes until we got it to where we felt the public wanted us to be.
Right, so I guess I'm of the mind that I would like more than one day to ruminate on any changes that you know, any information, any new information that's been brought to us by property owners, right, at this public hearing, or affected people, and one day to consider it and slam it through, so then we can't change it after that. I'd like to have at least 2 weeks, like one meeting cycle before we do that next reading.
Okay.
And one day just doesn't seem like enough for me, because for some people, this might be maybe only one person. It might be just a real drastic change to them, and they need a little time to be convinced. And you know, but if they don't think, we need to not just have the appearance of, or you know, the rote job of giving the time of considering it, but we actually need to give it some time, and I'd like to see that to be 2 weeks.
Okay. Councilor Downing?
Just a question of staff. Is it possible to expedite this? Get this process moved forward a bit?
Through the mayor, it's council's decision. We do need to give, you know, the 2 week public hearing time and advertisements in the newspapers. I propose this amount of time for exactly what Councillor Mitchell is speaking about, is for the property owners to be given enough time to get some answers from either myself or Kevin Brooks at McElhaney and absorb that information.
How would you feel if we were to have the public hearing moved up from June 13th to June 6th? And move it up. I'm concerned, we have building permits going out and we're proposing a lot of things. We have things, this zoning bylaw needed to be it needs to be completed, and dragging it out causes me concern, so. Would that be okay to move it up a week? How does council feel about that?
Councillor Cole? you got
I
your
could
hand
jump,
up?
yeah, I'm totally opposed. We've January and then all of a sudden we're gonna push this through in 1 month. If somebody doesn't check their mail in a week and they have no input. Yeah, it's 1 month. And then I don't know if we're gonna make a motion to add more information to this letter, but that's going out in 3 days. So that would be significant work for staff to dial that in. And then it's 1 month, so. And then we add another 2 weeks. I think Ryan's point is well taken. Like, we're not supposed to, correct me if I'm wrong, any more public information after the public hearing. But yeah, it's a lot to take in, and we might have. We pretty much rubber stamp things after the public hearing, but this might be a case where we don't, because I don't think a lot of people realize the gravity of the changes we're proposing. They haven't had a chance.
Thank you. Councillor Graham, did you have your hand up or not?
I'm comfortable with the month. That's what staff's asking us for, is the 13th.
Okay, do we want to put that in a form? Did you type out what Councillor Cole was asking added to the letter? Could you read that, please?
To add a list of uses to the letter showing both current and old uses of the property and explaining grandfathering.
Okay, and you're making that motion, Councillor Cole? Seconded
Thank
by? Seconded, okay. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay. And then a motion that the hearing date be set at June 13th, 2022.
I'll move it.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. There was a suggestion about leaving it 2 weeks. I'm not sure I'm in favor of that, but if somebody wanted to make that motion, and we'll see where that lands. Pardon? There was a motion or a suggestion by Ryan to wait 2 weeks before we have the discussion after the public hearing. Or we, yeah.
I'll make a motion for the third reading to be on
No.
2 weeks after.
Hang on a second. We don't.
Okay, the discussion.
Yeah,
Understood.
just that it goes on the agenda. Right, because we're not gonna say it could take us a while. We can't, if we give third reading, we can't make any changes, right? And I make the assumption that there might be a possibility that we're gonna have to have a meeting or two about what we've heard, right? So just that Ryan is concerned that putting it on the following day's agenda is too soon.
Yep.
And he wanted it 2 weeks after, that the zoning bylaw be put 2 weeks after.
I understand, and I'm going to withdraw my motion. I feel that's a decision we can make on the 14th.
Okay.
It's up to Ryan, I guess, to make the motion.
That was my fault also. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then, please, to item. Did I forget something? Oh, sorry, that's just sort of talking to myself. Okay. So we're moving on now to the bylaws. So we had a public hearing. This is public consultation. So we for bylaw 710 2022 and bylaw 711 2022. And I believe also the tax rate bylaw number 712. I'm going to ask. I'm going to call for speakers. Is there anybody who wishes to speak and make a comment on either the 5-year financial plan, the tax rate bylaw, or the election, or no, yes, sorry, just those two. The other one was elect. So on the tax rate bylaw, the 5-year financial plan. Any comments? Do Do you have to make them all? Okay, sorry.
I'd like to move the,
Hang on a sec, we have to do this first. This is part of, we always do public consultation where, but usually what happens, Shelley, is that we have it at the beginning of a council meeting. Yeah, not, yeah, just, yeah. We have to ask for input for, we usually do every year for the 5-year plan and the tax rate. Okay, second call for speakers. I'd like to ask a second time if there's anybody who wishes to speak and make a comment on the 5-year plan for the tax rate bylaw. Okay, and I'll make a third and final call for speakers. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? And then seeing none, that public consultation is now closed. So now we will go to item 8A, bylaw number 710, 2022, 5-year financial plan.
a motion third reading.
Third reading, seconder for that,
Second.
discussion?
Discussed it.
Okay, all, seeing none, all those in favor? I can't see,
Aye.
okay, thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Item 8B, bylaw 711, 2022 tax rate bylaw. Third reading,
I'll move third reading.
moved. Seconder?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now on to item 8C. Sorry. We've got a staff report on the election procedure amendment bylaw 712 and for mail-in ballots, mail voting ballots. What staff is looking for that council give first, second, third reading to election procedure amendment bylaw 712 that gives the ability for mail-in ballots.
I hate to table, but I have a question. We have one full voting day and we have one advanced voting day. So that's taking the place of other advance. We're thinking the mail-in is taking place of other advance. Us shaking hands.
Go ahead.
It's to add another opportunity. It's not to detract from what we already have scheduled.
But we only have one advanced voting date scheduled.
So that is the mandatory one that we have to have, and then we can have other advanced voting days if we wish.
Was there an idea?
And when would that be, information be
Given
released?
The idea is to emulate what was done in 2018, and I do believe that was 10 advanced voting days. Yeah, so those will be available as the election crew. We have discussed that and found that that was very advantageous as far as running the primary election day.
Councillor Cole, you had a comment?
Yes, I have a question. In the past, how have we addressed absentee property owners? How have they been able to vote?
I don't believe they have. They have not been able to.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, they have to be present, either come in advance polls. If they're gone before advance polls, then
Yeah.
they're not able.
so yeah, that seems a little unfair. So I'm leaning towards allowing this. Although I do have lots of questions as well, like what other examples are we working off and or other communities planning this? But to me, that would be the primary reason to do this, would be to either allow absentee property owners to vote, or people who just don't, you know, with COVID and whatnot, maybe that'll be a concern again. They want to mail in the ballot.
Did you answer a question
Through
there?
the chair, just to Councillor Cole, yes, other communities are doing this, and there's been a recent amendment to the Local Government Act to expand who is eligible for mail-in voting. Previously, it was only people who were absentee and people who were through disability or infirmity unable to attend on voting day.
Thank you.
Right now, I don't have a motion on the table at this time.
I'll move we accept this report and go ahead with mail-in voting.
What we need is that council give first, second. Is there a reason why we're doing 3 all at once this time, or?
There's no requirement for public hearing or public consultation on this particular bylaw. So we can give up to 3 readings at one sitting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, I see what we're after. Okay, I'll move that.
Move first, second, and third, or just first and second? How do you want to proceed?
Well, first, second, third.
Seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Yep, go ahead, Councillor Downey.
I'm struggling to get this third reading when it shows up in our box 3 days ahead of a meeting with no direction or indication that staff was even considering this, moving this forward. So it would be brand new. We do have staffing implications in terms of how this gets managed. And currently our website says there is 1 voting day. I did request from staff to what our historic voting days were in the past, and we had 8 days in 2018, 7 in 14, and 6 days in 2008, 2011. So right now, as this report is stated, and according to our website, there is no assurance that we have that there will be any other advanced voting days aside from the one that is already posted on our website and the general election day. In the absence of having confirmation that there will be advanced voting days beyond those 2 dates, or voting opportunities beyond those 2 dates, I cannot support this report as it's presented this evening. When there's more information as to the advanced voting, I will give this consideration, but not at this time.
Did you want to make a comment on it?
I was just concerned that just in the process, I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm just concerned in the management of the process.
So process wise, can you enlighten us again on how the Elections Act and I know there was something about where we have our hand in and where we don't. I know that this is coming to us because it's in our bylaw and we have to change the bylaw. Apart from that, where's council's input?
Thank you, Mayor, which is very minimal. This would be adopted by bylaw, and it would be up to the elections staff to prepare advanced voting. We, as we were appointed, we now become subjects of the provincial government.
Which, to my point, there is no guarantee there will be an advanced voting day beyond the one that's currently scheduled. So, and we have no opportunity to enforce that or to request it or direct it. So barring that, I'd like to see what staff has mentioned that they're considering. I'd like to see that actually in place before I consider what's before us tonight.
I'll let staff go to Connor Mork, and then Councillor Cole, you'll be next. Okay, go ahead.
To Councillor Downey, through your worship, I would caution council on tabling this bylaw. There is a deadline in which we have to amend our elections bylaw if we're going to do it of July 4th. After that, we cannot amend the election bylaw.
Councillor Cole, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. To Councillor Downey's concern, the report on page 75 does not mention at all advanced voting or changing advanced voting. It's just, you know, where it's about adding mail-in voting. So I'm prepared to vote for this and make another motion afterwards to just keep the same advance poll numbers as last year. Like, I don't think we need to read into this too much about what you saw on the website or whatever. It's just about what's on this report. So I guess that's the point I wanted to make.
Councillor Downey, and then I'll call the question.
That staff would clarify, in fact, there is no obligation. We cannot motion staff or the elected officials who are going to be hosting this we cannot direct them to have advanced voting days. There is no proof it will happen. Yeah.
Procedurally, this will be the fourth reading after this.
Correct.
So it would come back on the next meeting, but there would be no changes to this report.
Correct.
So, and if we did first and second reading, that would give us an opportunity to speak with the elected people, or I can't remember what the right word is, to speak with you informally or formally, and then you may possibly change this report before it came back for third reading? Or
As the chief elections officer myself, I can give a verbal assurance to council that we are anticipating having the advanced voting days. I don't have any reason to not, the same as last year, or 2018, sorry.
Okay. Final questions? Call the question then. All those in favor? Ryan, and those opposed?
Can we get the motion reread, maybe?
I'm in favor.
Either way.
Your worship, that council give first, second and third reading to elections amendment bylaw number 712/2022.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so there was
My vote stands.
myself, yeah, okay, Councillor Mitchell and Councillor Cole, and then opposed, Councillor Barron and Councillor Downey. Okay.
Is that
Moving
motion
on.
carried?
Yes, it was carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll go to item 9A, temporary use permit application. So there was a report that did follow from the advisory planning committee. Because it wasn't made public, I will just read it out quickly. So the council did refer it to the APC, Advisory Planning Committee. The application had to be considered under the existing zoning bylaw policies, as well as set the vision set out in the LCP. There was a discussion of positive growth for the community and allowing the diversification of our tourism base. There was a discussion about increasing flexibility for new business in the community. There are concerns that this may be a precedent-setting decision that will take away from residential setting on Beach Drive to more commercial nature. There are concerns that if the lodge is not locally owned and operated, the town may be inviting a large commercial charter enterprise. There are concerns of parking, extra boats, passenger vehicles, waste disposal, especially our fish waste. And there was concerns that the idea of the fishing lodge may also branch out into the fall and winter activities, making the residents a full-time commercial property. Through deliberation, the APC is presenting two recommendations from council's consideration. One, that the town support the temporary use permit application for the described uses at 2342 Beach Drive with conditions. Two, that the following conditions be included if a temporary use permit is issued. I'll go up top. The TUP is be issued for a period of 1 year. The conditions of the TUP shall be limited to intended use and season as indicated in the submitted application. The permit only be issued upon receipt of proof of corporate ownership being held locally. All parking is contained on the property. Any waste generated as a result of the fishing charter business not be disposed of in household garbage, and occupancy number conforms with the regulations of bed and breakfast as indicated in the zoning bylaw number 671/2016. Okay, so I've done that for the benefit of the public who did not have a chance to see the APC's report.
What was the occupancy numbers in 10,
Including the residents.
10 including residents?
You want to proceed, council?
So we need a motion? What?
So we've heard from the public.
Yeah.
So we can take that into consideration. We can take into consideration the APC's recommendations. I believe the reason that the APC would be recommending a year was to do with the ability for the applicant to be able to reapply prior to the expiration of the temporary use permit. So that's why they were recommending the year stretch. Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
I read the report that staff had given as to the background or as to why this can't be a bed and breakfast, why it can't be a home occupation. Just all the reasons why what we have currently doesn't allow this type of operation to fit. So temporary use is definitely a way to accommodate. It is temporary. That's a problem for a few reasons. You know, it's harder once something gets established to what happens in a year's time, especially if it's a 1-year permit, what happens. So what I looked at this and I thought really to me, this is like a bed and breakfast. And yes, somebody's got a charter. It really is similar, but it doesn't meet the criteria we've laid out. So from where I sit, and I have talked to the residents along here that have concerns that live on Beach Drive, they're concerned that, you know, everybody's paying residential rate taxes, but there's a commercial enterprise happening there. They feel it's bad faith part on the town because we've zoned it for residential, but we're going to allow commercial and I think it was raised by the APC as what happens going forward. You are setting precedent. But that is the purpose of the temporary use permit, is to try things, and it isn't permanent. So I'm willing to support this for a year, but I do wonder that we don't direct staff to go back and revisit our bylaws and see if there isn't another way for this to fit instead, because for all purposes, it's somebody running a charter out of their home. They just happen to get a really nice meal and have somebody changing their sheets for them. So, you know, it's, but I hear what the residents are saying. You know, it does set precedents. And do we want commercial enterprises along Beach Drive? We do have to ask that question, because who are you going to say no to when the next one comes by? So 2 points, I'll support the application as presented by the APC. And my second thing is I believe we need to direct staff to find a way to accommodate those who are operating fishing charters out of their homes, because they're operating all over our community already. You see the boats parked in people's driveways. We know who they are. And the only difference is this one, you're getting a bed and a meal going with it. So.
Councillor Barron?
I was wondering what makes it commercial. Everybody keeps saying commercial. We have other bed and breakfasts. Are they then considered commercial, or are they still residential? What makes it commercial? Is the fishing charter what's making it commercial, or is it the fact that there's dinner that makes it commercial? I didn't understand. That's all I'm saying.
Through the mayor, it's the use of the building is no longer ancillary to the primary use. It has now become the primary use of the residence. And that's by definition, like a lodge and motel is a commercial use.
Okay, so if we didn't have the word lodge. If we didn't have the word lodge and we had 30. Sorry, I can't remember, 30, let's say 40 days,
30.
30 nights out of 90, out of 365.
34, yeah.
34.
Yeah.
34 nights out of 365, how does it become the primary?
Yeah, not ancillary.
It's not ancillary, and it like, how does it become not ancillary?
The days that it's operating and is now the primary use of that building is of a commercial nature.
So is that the same for other bed, like, let's forget the dinner part, let's forget the charter part. Well, I don't understand.
No,
So if you have a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
So for every day that you have guests in your bed and breakfast, you are a commercial enterprise?
It's secondary to the residential nature of that property.
So what makes this one primary?
Good question.
10
It's
people.
being- Thank you. It's a destination instead of accommodation for the traveling public. And this is a definition I got through our professional planning. This is not something I've come up with. And so people are purposely coming to a lodge to do fishing, to be served meals, to have a place to sleep, where a bed and breakfast is people are coming to go fishing with a different charter business or to go hiking, and that's just a place that they're resting their head.
Has also to do with insurances, because I remember talking to Kevin about that as well. And so this is also a way to ensure that the owner running the business is covered as well because of that gray area, insurance wise.
Do we enforce the insurance?
Do
No,
we have
But
any
it's-
right to know what the insurance is?
no, but I was just from an applicant's point of view, that's why they're going through this process and why the process is lending itself this way. And so that was just something that Kevin had mentioned, that's all. Go ahead, Ryan, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Just finally realized why you couldn't see my hand. I didn't have my camera turned on. I can't see myself. It's just a little bit tiny picture. I missed it. Anyway, my apologies. I wasn't intending to send this whole meeting out without having my camera on. I've considered this a lot. I've talked to a number of residents who are not enthusiastic supporters of this venture. And first of all, the area is zoned as residential only. And my understanding, having researched the temporary use permit concept, is that you might want to do a temporary use permit on something that is designated in the official community plan as commercial, but it's not zoned commercial right now. For example, the piece of property at the other end of Beach Drive that council declined to name as commercial in the official community plan. Let's just say we had, so somebody comes along and they decide they want to set up a charter business down there. Then we're going to try something in something where the official community plan has said, yeah, that's okay. That's what we'd like to do in the future with that piece of property. You can get a temporary use permit. It's very likely that a zoning change will be approved. And so you get a temporary use permit for 3 years, give it a go. It doesn't work, you walk away. Or it works great, and away you go. You've now established it. You apply for a zoning change to the intended use in the official community plan, and away you go. What we've got here is a situation where the intended use in the official community plan is not commercial, not industrial. It is residential. We need to honor that because it's perverting the purpose of a temporary use permit, because now we're trying to force a zoning change where we didn't intend one. Because that's really what this is for. It's to test it out to see if a zoning change would make sense. That's why these are there. And I think it's a great tool to use in the right application. This is not the right application in my view. There's no demonstrated need that the proponent hasn't brought it forward to me anyway, or to the council, that we need more of this type of business in town. Maybe we do. I have no idea. But no, it hasn't been demonstrated to me that that's necessary and that this is the only option to honor those 35 bookings that have been made. I'm sure there's other options that are out there. This is just happens to be the most convenient one. And obviously a very pleasant place for guests to stay. I'm not, certainly can't knock that. This business changes the neighborhood from residential to commercial industrial. It's not going to fly with the residents that are living on that street that I've talked to. I didn't talk to everyone though, I have to say that. I think there may be some other options for that piece of property. Bed and breakfast is still an option. If generating revenue is important, it's zoned that you could have a bed and breakfast there without having a fishing charter operation attached to it. So basically we're allowing, if we pass this, we're allowing 3 different businesses to operate in that residential zone. And I think it's unfair of us to ask staff to go back and find a way around it. Staff and I have had some discussions about creative zoning interpretations. I am not into creative zoning interpretations. Our zoning laws are pretty clear as far as I'm concerned. And I don't believe we need to be creative. I believe we need to honor the people who bought residential property and they would like to keep it as residential property. That's why they bought there. And I don't believe we should be doing a temporary use permit on something that, in my view, council should have no vision of converting that piece of property to a permanent commercial use. And a temporary use permit is really designed to test the waters. And why are we testing the waters in an area we say we don't want to swim?
Okay, thanks.
So that's it. I guess I used my
Councillor
5
Cole?
minutes.
Yeah, no. Just a bit of repeat, that's all. Go ahead, Councillor Cole. Did you have your hand up?
No, a lot of great points brought up on everyone's end. So I'll focus on, I'm really struggling with, we've deferred the discussion on Airbnb vacation rentals far too long, and we took it out of the zoning process, and we have no plan of addressing it at this point. It's on our strategic priorities.
I thought we left it in there, didn't we? Oh, we didn't.
No, we took it out because it was too difficult, right? It's a toughie, right? So we either opted to leave it in for, like, as in bed and breakfasts, the status quo, that's what we did for housing reasons, or just not, we didn't want to deal with it, whatever. But we had people come before council and ask us about it, and it got deferred with the COVID, or whether they do it or not anymore. It's kind of irrelevant. So the only good I can see out of this application is us trying to deal with this issue right now. And yeah, I'm opposed, but like maybe a 6-month, like just get through the season and then they can live by the same rules as everyone else, like what we decide. And if this council decides to slough it off to the next one, well, that so be it. But I don't think we should. It's not fair. This has brought it to light. There's a huge housing component to this. We have Airbnbs active in our community. We're not, we're relying on somebody to complain about it, right? There's no bylaw enforcement. A commercial operation like this, if it was a hotel, would be paying the same sewer charge you have for your house and your water. Every hotel pays that per hotel room, right? So that unfair aspect should be addressed. And again, maybe we can just 6 months later, but like there's a lot of issues here. This is a commercial, and something like this might be employees, and it ramps up. It sounds like a modest operation right now, but to Ryan's point, if we're not willing to test the waters about having commercial operations dotted up and down Beach Drive, then why would we consider this? So like I said, the only bright spot I can see is this going to force our hand to hopefully deal with the issue. But I can't support anything with there. I don't see a benefit of 1 year. It's the 6 months gets them through the season. And we save a bit of face and try to deal with this issue. That's my input. I'll wait for a motion.
I think there was a motion, wasn't there? Or did we not? No, I didn't.
If the discussion stalled, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to accept the APC's recommendation, but with a 6-month term.
Is there a second for that? Seconder. I do hear what all of council has said. I about, you know, intended use and would we want to change it permanently? I've heard what the public's had to say, and I've also heard what the proponents have to say about how they would be looking for commercial space. I think the temporary use permit gives us the opportunity to see how it would work there. I think I'm hearing from the proponent that it probably wouldn't be applied for renewal anyway. I would be inclined to go with the APC's recommendation of the year. So that I guess if they did want to reapply, I mean, and at that time, if we say, no, we really don't want commercial business there, we say no. So, but we don't have a motion on the table.
I'll make a motion that we accept it and we go for 18 months. That gives them 2 seasons. And it's at the end of the second season, then they have to either reapply or go for zoning.
Seconder for that?
I'm gonna second it for discussion.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Downey.
As I'm listening, I hear the proponent, I hear the discussion, but the reality is how can something get built even for next season? That likelihood is quite impossible in today's market right now. So 18 months isn't unreasonable. You know, the other factor in this equation really is Airbnbs, because the language that was McElhaney was that Airbnbs be permitted if the owner was in residence. And if we had that particular language in our zoning bylaw, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. So would that be correct, staff? Just to clarify, in case I've got something wrong.
I would have to review it.
Doesn't change the ancillary use part, the ancillary use part. Yeah.
I don't agree.
Yeah, except the owners are in residence. Yeah.
Okay, any other further comments?
Did I need to clarify that motion?
Taking the,
Well, the APC had some,
using their recommendations.
so I don't know if you're still seconding at that point, but.
Except with the 18 months instead of a year. That's my second.
Yeah, just making sure.
All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay, moving on to item 10A, Canada Day celebrations. So that's quickly coming up upon us, and we have $5,000 that we were successful in getting for a grant. So I'm coming to council to see, you know, should a committee be formed, as was in 2019, to organize the Canada Day celebrations, or should we seek a local community group to organize the Canada Day celebrations? Since I headed up that committee, I'm going to tell you it was a lot of work. And if we could find a community group to do the celebrations, I would be thrilled.
How would you see that happening? Would just be like a Facebook post? Is anybody interested in doing something?
I
for
guess.
Canada Day?
Please put post, yeah.
Like
reach out to the few nonprofits that we have that put on events. I mean, the Gatehouse seems to have some momentum right now with doing different events and such. I don't know, go ahead. We could still have a barbecue.
Regarding the $5,000, how do we account for that? Because the carrot is the $5,000. If an organization was to take this on, you know, if they have 3,000 expenditures or 2,000, do they keep the 2 or 3 and call it labor? What would is there any incentive for an organization to do it beyond goodwill?
That's a good question. Laura's not here. She's the Canada Day expert here.
I'm in support of offering out to a community group if they're interested. It would be
Yeah.
good to know though if there is any financial incentive there for them, even if it's nominal.
Councillor Cole?
Yeah, I would think I'm in favor of putting it out there, but it just needs to be formal and then, you know, ask for expressions of interest and people can say whether they're making money or it's towards a cause or whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they can pitch their idea and their budget. Yeah. Okay. So we'll move then that we'll seek a local community group to organize Canada Day celebrations with the budget that we have.
No,
No?
my understanding is we would put out a request for expressions of interest.
Isn't that what seeking is?
It sounds like you're tapping somebody's shoulder. as
a
opposed to-
request for.
I said formal.
Okay, what's your wording? Request for expressions of interest.
Yeah. From groups to host Canada Day celebration. $5,000 budget.
I think it's $5,000.
Okay, we get Connor to read that out. So is there a seconder for that motion?
Sure.
Okay, and
To put out an expression of interest for community groups to host the Canada Day celebrations with a $5,000 budget.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. There are no items to be made, to come from in camera to be made public, but I would like a motion that council go in camera, closing the meeting to public under community charter, section 91. And its discussions of municipal affairs, respecting municipal objectives, measures and progress reports for the purpose of preparing the annual report. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Ask if there are any questions from the public. I'll ask first here in the room. Is there any questions from the public? Okay, are there any questions online? For clarification, was the TUP motion that was, oh, can you read out that?
18 months, Bill.
Okay, thanks.
For clarification,
Yeah,
was the top motion that was passed for 12 months or 18 months?
Thanks.
18 months. No, people online can't read it, so that's, yeah. That's good. So yeah, 18 months, Bill. Any other questions? Okay, I see none. Then can I have a motion to adjourn and go in camera, please? Favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Have a nice evening.
Do we stay online? Can Connor advise?
No.
No, I would ask you to log out and log back in on the in-camera link.
Love the owl, by the way.
Oh, good, good, great.
No, guilty sampling of this too.
Oh, my goodness.
Middle of the phone call, okay.